Chuck, I've been fascinated, as you, with the ultimate questions all my life. My family might even say obsessed. And I, in recent years, have been talking to the great cosmologists, physicists, philosophers, theologians about these questions. Everybody has a different view. You are a professional, trained as a scientist, but professionally looking at ultimate questions. How do you do so? How do you organize it? And what can we learn from it?
Well, I think ultimate questions are really important in our modern world. They can bring people together. They can help us to deal with differences of opinion that become politicized, that cause conflicts. So I think if people learn intelligently to address ultimate questions, to read books together, to listen to different points of view, to do that in an open and thoughtful, say, university environment over time, that can be very constructive. Another aspect is that people are so specialized. Just like the economy develops by the division of labor into specialty, the economy of thought, of ideas, of science, of scholarship also proceeds by specialization. And that actually is a problem in some aspects because most people are not polyvalent or polyfluent in dealing with the kinds of issues that need to be brought in to address an ultimate question like, why the universe? What is time? Are we free? Is there a point? Is there purpose or not? Right. Is the universe absurd? These kind of questions, there typically will not be an expert in a department for whom that question is central to what they do. You have to bring people together across disciplinary boundaries.
One of the things I've found is that when someone achieves not just success, but great success in a particular field, say a Nobel Prize, that sort of is affords permission to become an expert in not only giving their opinion about ultimate questions, but saying what the ultimate question should be for everyone. That this attitude that if I really am an expert in one field, that I really can contain ultimate questions.
Yes, well, it's a kind of Einstein problem. If somebody is extremely smart in one area, we often presume that they're intelligent in all areas and that they have wisdom. It's not always the case. People differ. So we do put a lot of pressure on Nobel laureates to be general gurus and to be able to answer all questions. I think it is a problem, actually. And there's a temptation for scientists that work on the frontiers of knowledge in interesting places to cross a line of hubris and to then become a kind of public prophet or public intellectual. And sometimes that's justified. Some scientists are quite distinguished and they have broad reading and broad thinking. Others do not. So it depends.
Well, I think in that environment, I find it healthy. I don't mind when a scientist is very aggressive in presenting a point of view because that sharpens the issue. I'd rather have people take very strong and very opinionated views if they're willing to listen and to engage in dialogue, even if they think they're going to win every argument. Those are the people I like to talk to because they have a passion for the idea. I'd rather have a person who has a passion for a subject, even if it's exactly the opposite to what I may believe at the time, because it's important to them. That's the commonality that I look for.
I would think that the interaction with the media can be problematic. There's a little book I love. It has an intriguing title. It's called Why the News Makes Us Dumb. There's an interaction of intellectuals and the media and politics that can be very problematic because it precisely takes us away from a serious treatment of issues, listening carefully to what a philosopher might have to say, a philosophical theologian, one kind of scientist or another, different points of view. It tends to turn our thinking about ultimate questions into sound bites. That's problematic in my view.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think the challenge is to bring these different disciplines together. I think you gave a very good range of the kinds of people who can address these questions. Perhaps we had a biologist and somebody who knows the psychological or even sociological sciences together, so we have a broad range of our understanding, and bringing these kinds of people together to address it. I mean, I would love to hear a philosopher comment on a physicist's point of view, a physicist who would think philosophy is worthless, and many do.
Well, from the outside, some people are tempted to think that science is a kind of a block. It's a block of knowledge, it's a block of agreement, it's a block of settled opinion. From the outside, it can look like that, but from the inside, science is not at all like that, particularly on edgier philosophical issues. Scientists disagree profoundly on all sorts of issues, both technical and the big questions.
What's your experience in bringing diverse people together from a sociological point of view first, in terms of their even capacity to communicate together?
Well, I think that language is important. It's a problem that if you get a professional group of philosophers together with a professional group of, say, cosmologists, you'll find problems with the tech talk not connecting with the other group. And that's a challenge. The challenges are long-term. You have to have willingness of people to read each other's books and to take the time to do that. And in a fast-paced world of exciting activity in your own field, it does take a considerable sacrifice to read someone else's field. If you jump into, say, a technical philosophy book on the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's very difficult to come to grips with that jargon. On the other hand, if you're to look at, say, superstring cosmology, that's very opaque to someone who's not on the inside.
Well, I think that's very important, but the directions are non-symmetrical, because the philosopher who's interested in why there's something rather than nothing will recognize the importance of what the cosmologist has to say, even if they don't understand it quite. But the reverse direction is often not true. It's often the case that the people on the science side will think what the philosopher is saying is meaningless or in fact detrimental, because it gets people thinking about a way of thinking that is actually impossible to make progress on and therefore deleterious to the search for truth. I personally disagree with that and really feel it's important to get that communication.
For a scientist working on philosophical issues, the choice, I think, is not an open one. You can choose folk philosophy, or you can choose professional philosophical discourse, but not to have a philosophy is not an option.
Yeah, and by not having a philosophy, they're choosing a philosophy by default. As one well-known physicist said that the only benefit of philosophy is when certain philosophers keep all the other philosophers off my back. But in terms of really dealing with reality, I don't agree with that.
Take an issue like the cause of everything. That's a big question. What caused everything? Mm-hmm. Or even what caused the order that underlies everything, if you're talking about, say, the laws of nature. Mm-hmm. That kind of a question is not really addressed in science. It's a boundary issue for science. So we have theories, say inflationary theory or eternal chaotic inflation, where we have something that's getting close to explaining why there's everything. But below that is the question, well, why is the order, or why the laws? And it's quite common that people, both on the outside and within the scientific community, will mistake the theory for an answer to this question, why everything? And it's not particularly a complicated issue in philosophy, but it requires certain distinctions that are normal for a philosopher to engage and not normal for a physicist to engage. And you won't find them in discussions in the popular scientific press either, like in New Scientist or Scientific American. Typically, you won't have that level of distinction.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And what you can find is that even if the lower cause is literally contiguous with the physical cause, and you can completely solve the physical cause, which we haven't, but if you could, it's possible you will have made no progress in what's even more fundamental than that. It's an open question.
The question of physical cause is a very interesting one, because someone will say, well, we have a physical cause because we have a scientific theory or a scientific model or a law of nature, which gives us a physical cause. But it's interesting that a physical cause is described by a mathematical idea. Mm-hmm. A mathematical equation is not a physical thing, it's a concept. And it lives in the space of concepts, in the space of order and rationality. So to some degree, it's not a physical object, a mathematical explanation. So even by using a law of nature or a theory to describe something physically, immediately you're ironically out of the domain of physical cause.